Hi there. In the previous video, you saw how we harvest the source metadata, create a domain and physical mappings in Flow Studio. Now that the mapping is created, the next step is to manage it properly, from versioning and handling changes to organizing mappings into pipelines and preparing them for deployment. So in this video, I'll walk through 4 key features: the version control, impact analysis, domain pipelines, and release packages. Let's start with version control. Every mapping in Flow Studio maintains a version history where all previously committed versions are stored. Here we can see all the versions that have been created over time, and we can switch to any version depending on our requirement. Let's say I want to build on top of this particular version. From here, I can create a new version based on the selected one. In this dialog, we can define whether the update is major, minor, or a patch, depending on the level of change. We can also choose the physical layers and the version that this version needs to be based on. This gives us precise control over how changes are introduced into the system. Once the changes are made, we can commit this version, ensuring that the updated structure is safely stored. This approach prevents overwriting existing logic and allows us to maintain a clear evolution of our mappings. It's especially useful when multiple changes are happening over time or when we need to go back to a stable version quickly. Now, let's see how Flow Studio handles changes in source systems using impact analysis. Let's consider a scenario where the data type of an existing attribute is changed. This means the structure of the incoming data has evolved, which can potentially impact our mappings. To reflect this change, we create a new release for the source and reharvest the metadata. Flow Studio then provides an impact report that clearly shows what has changed, such as newly added attributes or modified data types. This makes it very easy to understand exactly how upstream changes affect our mappings. Once we acknowledge these updates, we again create a new version based on the latest structure. This new version now incorporates the updated metadata. After validating the changes, we can commit it safely. What's really powerful here is that Wallspeed doesn't just detect changes, it actively helps us adapt to them, ensuring our mappings remain accurate and reliable. Now that we have multiple mappings ready, the next step is to organize them into a flow using domain pipelines. Here, let's create a domain pipeline called CED sync. A domain pipeline allows us to define how different mappings should be executed together. In this case, the mappings are executed sequentially, which fits our use case. We also have additional options like and, or, custom task, and empty mappings. Custom tasks can be used to introduce external logic, for example, running scripts or validations. Empty mappings can act as placeholders or control points within the flow. This flexibility allows us to design complex workflows in a structured and controlled way. We need to define our pipeline properties by setting scheduling type, presets, connection name, maximum active tasks, and the start date. Commit the pipeline once it's done. Finally, we prepare everything for deployment using release packages. A release package acts as a deployable unit that bundles all required artifacts together. We first create a package folder. We now create a release package. Here, we include the domain pipeline that we created. Instead of managing each mapping individually, release packages allows us to handle everything as a single unit. For example, when deploying a complete data domain, we package all related mappings and their execution logic together. This ensures consistency across environments and simplifies deployment significantly. We now commit this. At this point, we have taken our mappings from version control, handled structured changes using impact analysis, organized them into domain pipelines, and bundled everything into a release package. With everything committed and ready, we can now move on to the code generation and automated deployment, which will be covered in the next video. Thanks for watching.